Hello guys, this is Ralph Roberts, also known as Rapid Ralph, from the TV show of the same name that was on local TV for a couple, 3 years, in which I rode around the country and told you about it. And that's exactly what we're going to do today as we come up here to the intersection of Highway 191 and 280 here in Mills River, North Carolina, in Henderson County, about 10 miles or so west of Hendersonville. And we're going to go up 280 to the Asheville Airport and hit I-26, and you'll get to ride that mad ride on I-26 from the airport out to Asheville through the infamous Malfunction Junction. I'm, of course, driving the Lieutenant Colonel. We have Jill, the GPS unit, up on the dashboard there telling us which way to go. And a new member of the cast is Chat, the Galaxy S3 phone that's handling the camera duties today. Chat's mounted up behind my right ear. And on the headrest I have a camera mount that bolts there and is doing a very good job. Chad, of course, shoots full HD, which is called 1080p or 1080 by 720 pixels, and does a pretty good job. He doesn't handle changing light real well, but as far as detail and clarity and things like that, it does fantastic. So I've been out to Rosman, North Carolina today on business, way back up in the mountains of western North Carolina, and heading home after a busy day, and glad to be doing it. And this is 4-lane through this small section of 280, and we'll be coming up very quickly on that's a Land Rover dealership over to the left there. Can't see it, but if you ever want a Land Rover, you can buy one from them, I suppose. I'm happy with my Kia Sorento, which is what the Lieutenant Colonel is. 4-wheel drive, shock and all, etc. Does a real good job. Because I got some places in the mountains you won't even believe are places. And it's very handy to have that. Look at those mountains over there in the in the distance. We live in this huge mountain valley here in the Asheville, Hendersonville area, and completely surrounded by mountains. You have to go over mountains no matter which way you go to get out of the mountains here, or out of the valley rather. So let's see what else. That little black box right to the right of my right hand is my satellite radio, which I listen to often since I do a lot of driving. Real nice to have. And of course, Jill up to the right on the center of the dashboard. That round thing just behind the satellite receiver's place where I use a suction cup mount to mount cameras sometime. We're very I have lots of little cameras. I love filming and producing these shows. This one's not too long. It's 22 minutes and 30 seconds. I've already edited everything except the voiceover, which I'm doing now. Oh, cars are passing me. These roads in North Carolina are a bit rough. They haven't, they are repaving some, but they haven't got around to this one yet. So we're getting ready to cross the end of the runway here. That little thing on the right, that little tower we just went by as part of the guidance system to bring the planes in. So we're maybe 200 or 300 feet from the end of the runway where the planes touch down. Over on the right is the Western North Carolina Agriculture Center. That's where the Mountain State Fair is held every year, and they hold gun shows and horse shows and all kinds of other shows there. See some horse trailers now. And to the left is, after we get through the red light here, is the terminal for the Asheville Airport. We have non-stop flights to wherever the planes land. Actually, I think we got non-stop flights to Orlando, Atlanta, of course, Chicago. Used to have one to Minneapolis. I don't know whether we still have that. Into Detroit. Those pretty good flights. Those are regional carriers, of course. Also one to New York, if they still have it. Hard to keep up with. I fly in and out of here occasionally. But right now we're flying the Lieutenant Colonel. Low and fast. Actually, we're trying to get through the mess up here. By the way, I have edited out the really boring parts. So, the long waits, and there was quite a bit on when we get to Patton Avenue, one of the main drags in Asheville, where we're facing directly in the sun and sitting at that red light's essentially forever, so I just cut that out. As I take a drink of water. Okay. I drive through here pretty often. Got another horse trailer. I'm attuned to horses, of course. I'm sure you've seen some of the short videos I posted of Blaze and Penny, the horses that live on my farm and pretty well boss us around and suggest when we should give them treats and things like that. Okay, this is a little slow here because we're coming up on the intersection with I-26, and we'll be taking the off-ramp down to the left. So I cut out some, but I'm sitting here, sitting and waiting, and taking a drink of water. That's lemon-flavored water, pretty good stuff. Sometimes I drink the grape-flavored. It's nice to have a little variation in what you do. And then, of course, coffee. You gotta have coffee. That's a good convenience store coffee. Well, maybe those two words don't go together, but it's convenience store coffee. Actually, I do know from long experience the convenience stores that have the best coffee. Some of them actually have pretty decent coffee. The majority, however, it's watery and not really much like coffee. Okay, you can actually look on the GPS and see where we're going to turn up here in about 40-50 feet. And we're turning onto the entrance ramp, and here's where it gets exciting. Because if there's a lot of traffic coming in the right-hand lane, it's so hard to get in. You better be going fast, but I think was pretty clear right now. Now, last week I was coming out the eastbound lanes, which is the ones on the other side, and both these lanes that I'm running on now were closed to traffic because Vice President Biden was in town. In fact, I got a quick shot on my cell phone of his limousine whizzing by, and he didn't even wave at me. Oh well. He managed to hold me up twice, so I had an hour's appointment, and I got held up going and coming because of them holding the Highway Patrol and the Sheriff's Department and so forth, holding traffic for him. Secret Service, I guess, was the ones behind it. But they were holding the traffic back, which is inconvenient to the traveling public, of which I are one. So I'm not too keen on politicians of either party who hold up traffic. Okay, we're coming up on Biltmore Park. Over to the left, you can't see it, is a huge lake, cooling lake for the big coal-fired power station that gives us all our electricity in this area. Hard to live without electricity, though. We gotta have it. Good stuff. Get a real charge out of it, I do. We're coming up on the Skyline Lake Long Shoals Road exit here. but we're going to keep going straight. There's a big shopping center here called Biltmore Park. There's a lot of interesting places to eat and so forth. And we'll be coming down and around the curve, and we'll see it all ahead of us here in about a minute or so maybe. And there we come. Big shopping center. We don't have many shopping centers in the Asheville area. We have this one in Biltmore Square. Yeah, the Biltmore company gets involved in a lot of stuff. And the Asheville Mall, and those are the big ones. There's some smaller ones. We're about 6-7 miles still out from Asheville. The Asheville Airport, which we went by on 280, is actually in the Asheville city limits. But this is in just plain old Buncombe County here, and then we'll get back in the Asheville city limits in about 4 or 5 miles or so. Now the next landmark of interest will be when we cross under the Blue Ridge Parkway. Blue Ridge Parkway, of course, runs down from the Shenandoah Valley along the Skyline Drive to through the mountains of western North Carolina. Extremely scenic drive. About 400 miles long, I think, if I remember correctly. Okay, the big bridge up ahead is where the Blue Ridge Parkway crosses over I-26. And I've driven across that bridge quite a few times. I went a car. Now here the S3's not handling the light as well as it could. But for something that small, it does quite a good job. I'm very pleased with it. The only problem is when you're shooting like this, if you get a phone call, it cuts off the camera. So you have to restart it. I was lucky on this drive, though. I didn't get any phone calls. And we're coming down the hill that towards the French Broad River. French Broad River's our big river through this area. Big for the mountains, that is. It gets considerably larger when it gets down to Knoxville, and then it eventually runs into the Tennessee River and on into the Mississippi and on into the Gulf of Mexico, etc. We're about 2,000 feet above sea level here. Driving west right into the sun, so it's washing out the picture a little bit, but that's realism. I like the light this time of day. This is 5:20 something, 5:22, 5:23 it looks like down there. Looking at the clock down the lower center again. But this time of day is called the magic hour, which lasts for, depending on how the sun's setting, time of the year, etc., maybe for a couple 3 hours. But the light is just helps painters and photographers and videographers like me to get good pictures. Of course, the light coming in through the windshield reflections, light hitting the lens of the camera, since I don't have a lens, anything to shade the lens, etc., will cause it to wash out occasionally, like the sky ahead of us. But it's doing the interior of the car really nice. Yeah, I like my four-wheel drive. It's nice. I wouldn't have anything else. And don't talk to me about electric cars or smart cars or anything like that, because they just don't cut it out here in the mountains. Try going up the top of a mountain, up a one-lane Jeep road through the trees in one of those, you won't make it. guarantee you that much. And we've been traveling on camera for 11 minutes. It's been a little longer than that because I cut out a couple of weights. Farmers Market. Oh, the NC Arboretum. Arboretum is where they have trees, and they have lots of trees. It's a fascinating place to go through. And it's at one of the entrances to the Blue Ridge Parkway. If you're ever up in this area, I highly recommend the Arboretum. Learn a lot of stuff. See, there's a sign pointing to the Blue Ridge Parkway. One of our main businesses, always has been in all the decades I've lived in this area, is tourism. We welcome everyone to come visit us. Please bring your money. So that's probably the main industry, and always has been here in Western North Carolina. We had some textile factories and such back during the 30s and 40s and 50s and so on, but those are mostly gone now. So we rely on seasonal traffic, people coming up to watch the leaves change, which they're actually starting to do a few places around here now. Now we're going to the infamous, and I do mean infamous, look at all the traffic on the left side. The infamous Malfunction Junction. Nobody likes Malfunction Junction, and sometimes this right through here is a parking lot. I've been stopped quite a few times. Today it's moving pretty well. So, and of course, Joe Biden, he had to go back right at rush hour and really inconvenience people. They were backed up a long way. I was in that backup too. Okay, we're Malfunction Junction. You can go on I-40 or I-26, or in this case I-240, which is the 4-lane into Asheville and through Asheville, east to west or west to east, depending on how you're going. So I'm going to come around the big curve up here shortly, go through West Asheville, and then hit Patton Avenue, which is actually 1923 West. I'll go up it about a mile and turn right onto the New Leicester Highway, NC Highway 63, which is how I go home. I live very close to Highway 63, about 3 miles or so out. I turn and go to my house, which is another mile and a half or so. And I live on the farm I grew up on, which is about 5 miles from downtown Asheville. Now, we thought we were way out in the country when I was a kid, but we were on dirt road and all that. Now it's paved and there's house developments all around and so forth. Crossing under 191 Brevard Road here, which we were on for a while when we hit the junction of 191 and 280 when this little video first started. And it was, now we're back on it. I'm sorry, we're not back on it. We went under it. Curved around and went under it. Anyway, I know where I'm going. If I forget, Jill's there to remind me. That blue line that's rotating around out of sight is the French Broad River. And that's a pedestrian walk that we just went under. And over to the right and to the left is the town of West Asheville, which is now part of the city of Asheville. At one time it was an independent town. When I was publishing newspapers back in the 80s, I worked just up to the right over those trees there. I did the Sagebrush Journal, which was a national newspaper for the fans of big Western movies. Got to interview Lash LaRue and Sunset Carson, and quite a few of the old Western cowboys. Also did the newspapers for veterans, since I am one too. That did pretty good. NC Veterans News, which actually covered South Carolina also. Now, if we were to go right here, we would go across the big bridge over the French Broad River into downtown Asheville. But we're not going right. We're going left, and we're going to curve around and get on Patton Avenue, which we're going under right now. They sell saddles and cowboy hats and stuff over there to the left. Jackson's Trading Post, and Western clothing, etc. Okay, I was stopped there for a while. You may have seen the transition. In fact, I cut out about a mile that took me almost 10 minutes to get through. Stopped at the stoplight several places on Patton Avenue with the sun in my eyes and not a very good picture. So anyway, we're on Highway 63, the new Leicester Highway. That's L-E-I-C-E-S-T-E-R. Most people pronounce it Leicester or Leicester, but it's Leicester, like in England. One thing, that's one of the air city buses now that they spend a lot of money on and hardly anybody rides that I've ever noticed. I wouldn't ride one. I like having my own transportation. And but anyway, what I started to say, speaking of Leicester, we have a lot of the, back in the mountains, in the mountain dialect, a lot of the old Elizabethan pronunciation from Elizabethan English in the 16th and 17th century. Oh, well, thanks for riding along. This is Rapid Ralph.